The number one issue businesses are faced with right now is finding qualified employees. We are in the middle of a labor shortage crisis, and you are not alone if you're struggling to find the best candidates, forcing you to hang on to employees that you do not love. In this episode, we're going to show you how you can find the most talented candidates while reducing your labor costs up to 60%. Welcome back to Bootstrappers, a podcast that helps entrepreneurs scale their business fast with the power of remote teams. I'm Gwenn Aspen with my business partner and spouse, Jeremy Aspen, and at Anaquim, we have helped hundreds of companies grow with remote professionals. On this episode, I want to talk about how the labor strategy is something that only big companies did, and now smaller companies really are creating a labor strategy to impact their bottom line, and I think it's super interesting.
Yeah, it is. It's ever since COVID, it's changed. The labor market has changed substantially. I know that's not news to anybody, but the combination of post-COVID and also this new generation of how they work, like the two things coming together makes it so that we, like as smaller companies, really need to identify what their strategy is going to be. And here's my prediction for what's going to happen in the world. In the next 5-10 years at the latest, labor will be border benign, agnostic. It's going to be that we have a world, that having a world labor market is going to be just the way things are. So companies like ours and companies larger are going to source exactly what people need from anywhere in the world, and they're going to work virtually, and it's going to be awesome. You know, we in the property management industry, our industry really has embraced virtual labor for damn near a decade now. But in a lot of industries, I'm always shocked to find out that it's not made it there yet.
Isn't it amazing?
It's weird because it makes all the sense in the world. So we have clients that have gone from having 50% of their revenue consumed by labor to just less than 30%, to just not exaggerate. Less than 30% of their income, of their revenue is now consumed by of their income is consumed by labor. That's a huge number, considering that I think on the average, 50% of labor is consumed of revenue is consumed by labor. When you can get that down to 26 or 27%, like some of our clients have done, you're a much more profitable company. And those are not huge organizations. Those are companies that have decided that they're going to have better labor at a less expensive price. And that's how they do it. It's not rocket science.
So here's how the game, I think, is got to be played from here on out. So we all know that in our local communities, because people are complaining about this everywhere, it's super hard to find top talent, especially if you're a small and medium-sized business and you don't have like the cachet of, like a big tech company, or you don't have the marketing budget of like a well-known name or what have you. It can be hard to get like top players to work at your business. And so what do you have to do to compensate? You have to pay more, you have to have better benefits, you've got to have more flexibility, you have to have things like mental health, like a mental health program or whatever.
Hotlines.
You've got to have those things that really make people want to work at your business.
Not ping pong tables. Different
subject. Well, we'll talk about that later. But so doing those things will help you attract top talent in your local market, but those things cost money. So what companies are having to do is any job that can be done from behind a computer, they're broadening the labor market to a global labor market, finding A players there. But the real key is to not accept B or C players at your business, because you don't have to. You can get A players if you are opening up your employee base to a global talent pool. If you're really clear about in the job description about what you want, if you know what winning looks like in that role, if you're able to create a remote team culture that's positive, productive, inspiring, and then you can pay people in your local community, boots on the ground, those people that have to be there, a really competitive wage. You don't have to put up with people that are holding you hostage to your business. You can really ask for what you want. The other thing is to eliminate any kind of after hours work that has to be done. If you can do it through, like, I don't know, a call center, not to self-promote, but if you do have a business that's like 24 hours a day, obviously people in today's workforce want work-life balance, and they're not willing to take calls or manage things after hours unless it's really infrequent and not the norm. And so the more you can prevent them from working like 24 hours a day, that's better too. So we've got to do a few of these things to make sure we only have top talent working at our business. And once we have top talent working at our business, then the momentum means growth, new initiatives, moving the ball forward faster, that kind of thing.
Yeah, one of the hurdles that I think gets in the way of a lot of entrepreneurs and business owners generally from engaging an international workforce is that they kind of inherently, intuitively know that Americans, for American companies, are the better employees. Like, we're the most productive workers. But let me just tell you that it's not that necessarily Americans are the best workers. It's that our free market system is most conducive to efficient labor. So when you couple less expensive markets with labor markets, with good old-fashioned American entrepreneurism and free markets, you get the same advantage in having high-quality, effective people that happen to have gotten their degree in another country working for your American company. We kind of have to get out of this mindset that, remote work has to be, task-oriented or basic, or someone that's going to just chase me, and it's not expensive enough to really about them being busy all day long. Not true, especially on a go-forward basis. It is very important that you get into the mindset of, I can find identically talented people much easier in a global workforce than you can in Omaha, Nebraska, or
Tulsa, Oklahoma.
Or Tulsa, Oklahoma. We have these companies in Tulsa, Oklahoma, or Wichita, Kansas, can hire somebody in Mexico, in South America, in Russia, not anymore, not right now. The Ukraine, that would be one. Singapore, the Philippines. You can find talented people all over the world. They're all accessible, and all you have to do is have the kind of environment that American entrepreneurship and free markets allow.
Now, it does come down to leadership. I've heard this from several clients of ours who hire remote professionals, that hiring remote professionals made them into better managers. So I think one of the reasons why people are hesitant to hire remotely is they're worried about managing them, which, if you're an amateur manager and you're not good at managing people in your office, I think
find someone who is.
Well, it's a reason that if you can't manage someone who's in your office, maybe you would struggle even more managing someone outside your office. But then it forces the right behavior. Get to be metrics based for productivity. Make sure you spend time with your customers your employees on the front end in a huddle, making sure you connect with them on a personal basis. Be proactive about that. Make sure you're focused and organized with your goals and what you're going to attack that day. And if you do these things, those folks in Mexico, which I think is we've worked with people from all over the world, but I don't know if it's just our recruiting arm just finds the top talent in Mexico or what it is, but we're just really happy with that workforce. We've tried other countries and haven't been able so far. We probably will, but we haven't so far been able to replicate the quality of work that we've had in Mexico. I mean, it also helps that they're on our same time zone. A lot. But once you get into being good at managing remote folks and get comfortable with this international workforce, you will lower your labor costs. I mean, some roles, it can be up to 60% less. And then you can hire top talent for those roles that you have to have locally. It just transforms everything.
Well, and so two things. One, the caliber of person that you're getting for far less is, for instance, an engineer in, let's say, Mexico, is going to be somewhere in that, call it I think at the outside, $20,000 a year. Whereas here in the United States, starting is going to be $60,000, $70,000. But also, let's say you're not really good at managing people. Do not rule out that you can find somebody in another country who is good at managing other people. And they can help you manage the operation from there, where you can have more of that leadership role, more of that visionary role. The people that can make your company better by following up and managing the people might not be in your hometown. They may very well be in Mexico or Singapore.
And that surprises people, but at our business, we have like 1,200 employees, and we have like 6 people in the U.S. So our call center, for instance, is managed by people that live and work in Mexico, and they do a great job.
Awesome.
And so even the managerial level in Mexico is top talent.
We have vice presidents. We have presidents of companies that are in there that report to a board and whatnot. You can find whatever you're weak at. There's somebody who's not. Now, they may be in your own market, but they might not be. They might be working virtually, but you can find them. Just look, do a search. Link to our site. We'll put in a job description. We'll look for somebody to find that can fill in your gaps, your weaknesses.
I think it's really the limitation of our own mindset that the people have to be in the United States that limits people from honestly getting the profitability at their business that they could achieve if they were just a little bit more open-minded with having a no borders, employment policy.
It used to be racism was kind of like a low grade racism kind of made it say, oh yeah, but they're, for instance, Mexican or so. People wouldn't have admitted that to themselves, but there really was more like 6, 7, 8, 9 years ago, more of that. Now the hurdle is that they're just not in your local market and that they can't be managers because, they're not you or whatever.
They're not in the office.
They're not in the office. It's just not true anymore.
Well, and I think maybe now that we're a few years out of the pandemic and people have experienced, managers leaving for the summer or because we had that labor shortage, they were allowing people to do more unique things to retain their talent. And then they saw it did work, that you can work from home as a manager and be effective if you're using technological tools correctly and you're measuring the right things and you're able to convey excitement and inspiration over Zoom, which, I mean, it is a talent. Like, you have to learn how to do that to really get people excited. And then also, I think people have found that if they get together quarterly at like some beautiful resort or do something like that, that is enough to keep the cohesion of a leadership team, for example. But I think right now is just this interesting moment where even small businesses are being super strategic with their labor expenses, not accepting low talent folks on their team, broadening their perspective of where talent can come from, and really achieving high results. It's super exciting to watch.
And also automating everything you can automate and streamlining every single workflow inside of your organization constantly.
You're not too small to think in this big strategic way with your labor costs. In fact, it may be the biggest difference between enjoying your job, because if you're only working with A players, you're going to love your job, and hating your job and getting burned out, and just opening your mind to talent across the globe. And I think particularly in Mexico, we've had a lot of success. Now, the other thing is, how do you find this top talent? And it's been interesting because we've been in the virtual assistant, being a virtual assistant provider since 2016. And we've seen transitions in how sophisticated the players are in this market of sourcing great people to work for companies. Yeah. And so it's really interesting how the market has kind of shifted out into being, here are the 3 tiers as I see them, and correct me if you think it's wrong. So there's websites where you just find random people, which I joke, and this is not a very nice joke, but I say it's like the Grindr of virtual assistants, or like the Tinder. If where
Grindr's more funny.
I think
like
it's
Grindr's
funny.
funnier.
I think it's funny. So the Grinder of virtual assistant. And so that's like every Tom, Dick, and Harry who can put up a profile and, you know, do an hour of research on what works to get someone to hire you on these websites. You have those folks. So
Like fractional workers, you know.
and the staying power, I mean, these people generally are not loyal.
Project to project.
And they will leave you for $1 more. And it's just like, how much can you pay? Anyway, so you've got that kind of website based. Then you have the people who just do sourcing. So you get a high upfront fee. They find someone for you, you hire them. This is like the true recruiter methodology, which is a step up from the Grinder of the industry. But you have to realize that they are not incentivized to make this person do well for the long term, because if they can stay for 3 months, you know, then they make their full commission, and they actually are incentivized for you to still have high churn, because then you come back for that same role again. Additionally, with these recruiters, they're incentivized to give really good interview skills to these folks so that they interview well, but that doesn't necessarily translate to quality work later on. Then the third tier is full HR. And really, if you're going to do labor like the way and really have a true labor strategy where you want top talent and you want to use a global workforce so you can get labor at a less expensive price but not sacrifice quality, I'm really a believer that working with a full HR team in the country that you're sourcing from is the only way to do it, because they're going to help you hold your hand along the way with pay increases. They're going to make sure that you don't overpay or do some crazy like bonus that doesn't make any sense. They're going to support you in making sure that these people have true KPIs that you can measure and think through things that they do all day long. That if you have a small business, it's not like you're recruiting from another country every day. So you can utilize those things so you don't waste time on people who are just churn and burn, on people who don't have, you know, a quiet place to work. You're just not thinking through all the things that this company is doing. And then they have the benefits packages, the tax policies that get really top talent to work for you.
Yeah, and the best practices like checking in with your employee once in a while to find out how it's going, your annual review management, things like that actually help the remote or the virtual assistant company be more a part of your HR solution. Because like I had mentioned earlier, we are entering a global workforce, and these kinds of global sourcing outfits are going to be just the way business is done. I would start sooner than later if I were you.
Yeah, using a true HR firm so that you don't make mistakes. Mm-hmm. So those are like the 3 tiers. Now, every business is on its own journey, and each one serves a different, you know, type of business. But just know that those 3 tiers exist, and be very intentional about what you're truly looking for in your global workforce and the best way to source that particular talent, because it does create different talent. And I will say, we had a customer that was one of our first customers, and then they ended up going out on their own and hiring for themselves. And just last week, I got a call that was like, Gwen, can you help us find top talent? We're really struggling finding great people. Even though there are all these places, you can go on these websites and they exist. And supposedly that's going to find you top talent. But still, at the end of the day, even someone that I worked with 6-7 years ago who now has their own outfit, they're still struggling finding top talent and still coming back to us for that recruiting.
And the fact of the matter is that there's the first 2 tiers generally do not have access to the local sourcing tools like not LinkedIn, well, even local Indeed. They can't go into, like, an American company can't go in and source in Indeed, because in order to be a client of Indeed Mexico, you have to be a real company in Mexico. So if you don't have that bridging you to the other markets, then you literally cannot access effective tools that find you the right people that you're looking for.
So to conclude,
We're
the labor
better.
force has changed. You have the whole globe to source talent from. Do not allow B and C and D players on your team because you don't have to. Even if you're a small business, you do not have to tolerate bad players because there are 8 billion people in the world, and I'm sure we can find you top tier talent.
No doubt.
And utilize the pay differentials based on cost of living to your advantage as a business, and utilize the different companies that can help you be successful in this way, and be excited about what's really possible and the type of talent that you can work with day in, day out. Because I'll tell you, if you're working with amazing people all day long, it just makes you better. And it not only makes you better, but it makes all your employees better to be surrounded by top talent. So there's no reason to have low expectations. One key to hiring the right people is asking the right questions. Download our free blueprint for hiring with the best interview questions you need to ask to identify exceptional candidates. The link is in the show notes.